Okay, so this is Minority Representation in Reality TV. My name is Amanda Schelling. My partner's Ji Chao Lee. So we wanted to start from the absolute beginning. An executive order issued by President Abraham Lincoln on January 1st, called the Emancipation Proclamation, abolished slavery right after the Civil War. Even though he said that this was the end of slavery, there was still continued oppression and racist laws still in place in the United States. And these laws and oppression didn't really start to change until the 1920s and 30s, and then again in the 50s and 60s with the Harlem Renaissance and the Civil Rights Movement. And those two movements worked on getting African Americans equal rights in the United States, obviously, and just tried to make it a better place for everybody. So that brings us to today, and we have the influence of television and the media on everybody. Brenda Weber said in her journal that many people tend to believe that what they see on TV is true, which is a pretty obvious statement, but example of this can be seen throughout every media outlet. That includes the TV, the news, social media, the internet. It's literally everywhere. And the media has an ethical responsibility to portray minorities equally. Since people tend to believe what they see everywhere, it's their responsibility to make sure that everybody in this country is being portrayed in the same way. So that also brings us to how these people are being depicted. Reality TV uses contestants to depict the stereotypical agenda about their race or identity. So African American people are often stereotyped as criminals, Hispanic people often stereotyped as drug dealers, Asian people extremely smart, and Middle Eastern people, especially now, are being stereotyped as terrorists. And these stereotypes have various ethical implications, and these stereotypes work to encourage racism amongst the general population because we see what's on TV and we think it's true, but in reality, it's the furthest thing. It just builds in our mind that these things are true when it's not, and that in turn creates more racism in the United States. So, just an example, the show America's Next Top Model, which is a bunch of, now it's women and men, competing to earn a huge career in modeling. There's a lot of stereotypes that go on in that show too, and one might think, how could that happen? They're just, taking pictures, but it's actually pretty, dramatized reality. They have, when the contestants tell about their backgrounds, they're usually not very accurate. They can create false backgrounds for the contestants that feed into the stereotypes listed before. That's from Catherine Squires. So that just keeps on with the racist idea that a certain people are expected to, come from a certain background and act a certain way. So these contestants with their, false backgrounds are presented in a humanized form that makes us feel for them, but it's still not completely true. Just continuing on with that, many contestants of reality shows have a backstory that depicts the trials of their lives. But while knowing a contestant's backstory is important, it's also important to realize that stereotyping happens when choosing contestants for a particular show. So they're looking for the African American person who lives in poverty and has a lot of struggles going on in their life. And that's just one the stereotype listed below, that black people are almost always depicted as being impoverished and having extreme struggles. And there's also the case of people who have immigrated to the United States, and they share their stories of the struggle of just immigrating to this country. And then only white people tend to have stories that don't deal with immigration or poverty and really, lean heavily on their family or disease. They have stories that aren't, stereotyped. Another show that we can look at is the Real Housewives of Atlanta and their stereotyping. So this show depicts African American women as sources of sass and slang over substance, which is just completely false. If we look at, women around the world, everyone's pretty much equal, and we don't have to pick out these women as being something different. So, according to Rajiv Menon, shows like The Real Housewives are producing and promoting gender and racial stereotypes, and that's pretty obvious. But there's also the positive side for minorities on reality TV. The show Shaws of Sunset on Bravo follows the lives of 6 Persian Americans living in Los Angeles. And like I said in a few slides previous, it's really important right now for people to understand that being Muslim doesn't really mean you're a terrorist or being any, religion different than Christian or Jewish or even atheist, because we have such horrible stereotypes right now, especially in our country, about Muslims or anybody else. Um, so this show really brings attention to the traditions and religions of those people without giving the negative background, because we get to hear their stories from their own perspective. So one particular episode I wanted to bring up was I think season 3 finale or close to it. Um, they went back to Iran and shared the struggles that they face in dealing with their return to their homeland. And these struggles aren't just like what you would think of, rich people living in Los Angeles, like their luggage got lost or something, but they really talk about the struggles that they face in having to move to America, because some of the characters weren't even allowed back in Iran because of what they were doing. So this shows that focus on a specific minority group within the United States have the power to influence people to believe that everyone in this country is pretty similar and we all deal with our own struggles. And just because someone's a different race or ethnicity than someone else doesn't mean that we need to stereotype them or look down upon what they're going through or what their beliefs are. So it really just shows that everyone deals with their own struggles and their own problems like everybody else. So, in conclusion, the media holds responsibility in creating reality TV that doesn't only portray stereotypes. So, what we're looking for is reality TV that doesn't feed off of the stereotypes that are already building up in this country so bad. So, that kind of falls on us to not believe the stereotypes we see on TV, because it only creates a large divide in a country that's trying to fix those same problems. So, what we wanted to end on is the stereotypes you see on TV, even though they're not obvious, they're definitely there. And it's our responsibility and the responsibility of the media to make sure that these stereotypes are being fixed and that everyone is day by day being more equal and being treated better. And that's it.